energy. It's what cells need to survive and function in all living things. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, nor can it be increased or decreased. Energy can only be stored and released. Cellular respiration is the process by which living things release energy from food and turn it into a form that can be used to carry on the activities of life. Life is an active process which depends on the continuous performance of many kinds of work. The energy for work in living things is released by the process of cellular respiration.
Write this definition under number 1 on your activity sheet now. Energy is released for use in living things by the process of cellular respiration.
Think about one life characteristic: growth. To make each new cell, thousands of proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, fats, and other complex substances have to be constructed. To do this, cells need energy, which means that they must be able to extract energy from the environment and to use it for the accomplishment of the work of growth. In addition, living things move, reproduce, and make complex chemical substances from simpler ones. All this requires energy. This energy is obtained by the release of chemical energy stored in food. Cellular respiration is the complex series of steps that take place in our cells which release energy from food. During cellular respiration in most living things, food molecules are broken down, and some of these molecules eventually combine with oxygen. This results in the release of carbon dioxide, water, and energy. The energy released is used to carry on all life activities. People often confuse the terms breathing and respiration.
Under number 2 on your activity sheet, describe how you think breathing and respiration might differ. You have 15 seconds to do this. If you need more time, turn off the player.
Breathing is one stage of the process of respiration. Human respiration can be divided into 3 stages. 1. The external stage. The breathing movements and exchange of gases between the air sacs of the lung and the bloodstream. 2. The internal stage. The exchange of gases between the blood and the body cells. 3. And the cellular stage. the chemical reaction that occurs when food combines with oxygen in the cells and releases energy. The purpose of breathing is to allow the blood to pick up oxygen from the air and deliver it to your cells, and to eliminate a waste product, carbon dioxide. To summarize, generally, breathing is a physical process that allows us to come into contact with the gases in the air and absorb them into the blood, whereas cellular respiration is a chemical process that takes place in the cells and releases energy from food.
Write this definition under number 3 on your activity sheet. Breathing is a physical process that allows us to come into contact with the gases in the air. Write this definition under number 4 on your activity sheet. Cellular respiration is a chemical process that takes place in the cells and releases energy from food.
In this program, we will only be concerned with the third stage of respiration, the chemical reaction that occurs in the cells of living things in which energy is released. Both oxygen from breathing and food from digestion are placed in the circulatory system through a process known as diffusion. Through diffusion, oxygen and food molecules travel to all the different cells in the body. After oxygen and food enter the cell, they are in a strange, fascinating, mysterious world, very far removed from our everyday experience. It is a world that exists in each of us, multiplied by more than 10,000 billion times. The cell is life in its most simple and basic form. Human bodies are composed of many different types of cells. They are the nerve cells, muscle cells, gland cells, and so on. The most obvious features of most cells are the nucleus and the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm consists of a formless jelly and contains a number of organelles. Organelles serve a variety of functions that help carry on the work of the cell.
Write this definition now under number 5 on your activity sheet.
Some of these organelles include the endosomes, which are concerned mainly with sorting and routing materials taken into the cell. Vacuoles and lysosomes are concerned with breaking down materials. Ribosomes manufacture proteins. The Golgi complex transports enzymes. And mitochondria are often called the power plant of the cells. Just as a furnace might supply most of the energy needs of an office building, the mitochondria supply most of the energy needs of the cell.
Write this down now under number 6 on your activity sheet. The mitochondria supply most of the energy needs of the cells.
How do the mitochondria release energy for use by the cell? The answer began to be revealed by experiments done in the latter half of the 18th century. In 1772, a Scottish chemist, Daniel Rutherford, reported on the effects of allowing candles to burn in a closed container of air. Eventually, the candle would no longer burn, and the air that remained in the container would not support the burning of anything else either. The gas filling the jar, which the burning candle produced, was carbon dioxide. Just 2 years later, in 1774, an amateur chemist, Joseph Priestley, added another important item to our knowledge of gases. He isolated a gas which would cause a smoldering splint to burst into flame. This gas later became known as oxygen. A French chemist, Antoine Lavoisier, reasoned that the process of burning which oxygen supported involved the combination of the burning object with oxygen. Lavoisier called this combination of a substance with oxygen a case of oxidation.
Write this down now under number 7 on your activity sheet. The combination of a substance with oxygen is called oxidation.
When oxidation takes place rapidly, the process is known as combustion or burning. During combustion, a rapid chemical change takes place and energy is released very rapidly in the form of heat and light. People have devised many ways to use the heat and light energy released by combustion reactions. Lavoisier felt there must be a slow type of burning or oxidation going on inside the body to supply the energy for life. Scientists confirmed this slow burning inside the body, which came to be called respiration. Lavoisier and another scientist of the period also carried out experiments demonstrating that respiration in animals is chemically similar to combustion. The end products of respiration in living things are almost the same as those of combustion in a furnace: water and carbon dioxide, and energy. However, living things have never developed a way to retrieve energy in a usable form from a combustion type of reaction. If food were simply burned, it would give off all its energy in the form of heat. Heat cannot be used to do the cell's work.
In fact, too much heat actually destroys living tissue. For example, normal body temperature in human beings is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But if body temperature goes several degrees over 98.6, the person would die without rapid medical treatment.
Unlike the bursting heat energy of a blazing log, cellular respiration must release energy slowly for use by the organism. We could say that the controlled release of energy through cellular respiration is comparable in some respects to the regulated operation of a gasoline engine. Or, to use another analogy, a nuclear explosion is a rapid release of energy. But a nuclear power plant, like cellular respiration, represents the regulated storage and release of energy. So in living things, then, energy must be released slowly.
Write this down under number 8 on your activity sheet. In living things, energy must be released slowly.
This is done by converting food through a series of controlled steps into a usable form of energy. This usable form of energy is a molecule called ATP. Between cellular respiration and the thousands of different processes it powers lies ATP. Just as electricity lies between the burning of coal or oil and the wonders of modern technology, ATP is encountered again and again as the energy source for life. Throughout nature, this central energy source arises. There is virtually no exception to this rule. Animals, plants, fungi, bacteria, all living things, including people, are powered by energy from ATP. ATP is a molecule which stores and releases energy for use by all forms of life.
Write this definition under number 9 on your activity sheet. ATP is a molecule which stores and releases energy for use by all forms of life.
If all energy from food were released in a single burst, it would be too much for the cell to handle. There is no way a cell can use that much energy all at once. However, the amount of energy in a single molecule of ATP is just about right for the average energy needs of a cell. If food molecules were simply burned, they would give off all their energy in the form of heat. This heat could not be used to do the cell's work. Cellular respiration releases most of the energy of the food molecules in a different way. In the mitochondria, the food molecules are taken apart one step at a time. By the end of the respiration process in the mitochondria, each food molecule ends up as 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules, and 36 ATP energy molecules. Each step of the respiration process in the mitochondria is regulated and controlled by enzymes. Enzymes are substances that control many processes in living things. Each time a food molecule is broken down in the mitochondria, most of its energy is transferred to ATP energy molecules.
Write this definition under number 10 on your activity sheet. In the mitochondria, most of the energy from food molecules is transferred to ATP.
Energy stored in ATP can be released later when it's needed to do the work of the cell. ATP is the energy carrier of the cell. During respiration, energy released by the breakdown of food molecules is used to build molecules of ATP. The ATP can then be sent to any part of the cell where energy is needed. ATP breakdown powers work. Since ATP is short for adenosine triphosphate, how many phosphate molecules do you think ATP contains?
Write your answer under question 11 on your activity sheet. You have 8 seconds to do this.
ATP has 3 phosphates. But for it to release energy effectively, ATP must lose one of its phosphate molecules, thus becoming ADP, or adenosine diphosphate. When you engage in any type of activity which requires energy, ATP is being changed to ADP in your cells. Then, during the respiration process, ADP will once again go through a series of steps to be reformed into ATP. This ATP-ADP cycle is like a battery being continually charged and discharged. The energy for charging the ATP battery comes from cellular respiration, the gradual, continuous process of releasing energy from food molecules. Except for certain microorganisms, all living things require oxygen to live. Oxygen in the air is so vital to us, and to most living things, that we are hard put to imagine life without it. However, scientists believe life almost certainly began and thrived for a long time in an oxygenless world. What was life's solution to its energy problem during the billions of years when oxygen was not available in the atmosphere? It was anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the release of energy in living things without oxygen.
Write this definition under number 12 on your activity sheet. Anaerobic respiration is the release of energy in living things without oxygen.
The cells of all life forms today continue to use anaerobic respiration to retrieve energy from food in the initial stages of the respiration process. The starting point of anaerobic respiration is the simple sugar glucose, and the end products are ATP energy molecules. Through the process of photosynthesis, energy is captured by green plants from sunlight and stored as food. The food produced by the plant is in the form of a molecule called glucose. Glucose is a white crystalline sugar, about half as sweet as table sugar. After the glucose molecules are made by the plant, they are combined into long chains of molecules such as cellulose, starch, and sucrose. The structure of the cellulose molecule makes it impossible for humans and many animals to digest it. But most animals can easily digest starch. After an animal eats a plant, the long starch molecules from the plant are broken down by the body into small glucose molecules again. The glucose molecules are one of the main fuels which animals use for their energy. Sucrose can also be easily digested by most animals. Sucrose is the chemical name for common table sugar. Anaerobic respiration consists simply of dividing a glucose molecule in half and the rearrangement of its atoms with the release of energy in the universal energy source of all life, ATP energy molecules. Anaerobic respiration is also known as glycolysis. Glyc comes from a Greek word meaning sugar, and lysis comes from a Greek word meaning loosening. All forms of life use glycolysis to retrieve energy from food in the initial stages of respiration. 2 ATP energy molecules are needed to start the process, and 4 are released for a gain of 2 ATP energy molecules. Only a small part of the energy value of each glucose molecule is extracted and stored as ATP, and more than 90% of the potential energy of the glucose molecule is unused. When green plants came into existence about 3 billion years ago, oxygen was placed in the atmosphere as a byproduct of the process of photosynthesis.
All the life forms that existed at the time were simple one-celled organisms, similar to yeast and bacteria. Many of these life forms became extinct. They could not adapt to the new environment with oxygen.
However, one adaptation which most surviving life forms developed was the cell organelle known as mitochondria. Mitochondria actually took advantage of the new environment with oxygen by combining oxygen with food material. This resulted in the release of much greater amounts of energy. The reaction that takes place in the mitochondria is known as aerobic respiration. Aerobic means with oxygen.
Write this definition under number 13 on your activity sheet. Aerobic respiration is the combination of food molecules with oxygen.
The release of energy in the mitochondria is much more efficient than glycolysis, because it releases much more of the energy contained in each glucose molecule. Each step of respiration in the mitochondria is carefully controlled by enzymes. As energy is released, some is also used in the process. Glucose is the fuel most commonly used by cells. This is how the breakdown of glucose during respiration takes place. Glucose is added to oxygen and under the control of enzymes produces carbon dioxide, water, and energy in the form of ATP energy molecules.
Write this equation under number 14 on your activity sheet. Glucose plus oxygen under the control of enzymes produces carbon dioxide, water, and energy.
Mitochondria are the main centers of respiration and energy release in most life forms now in existence. They are found scattered in large numbers throughout the cytoplasm of the vast majority of cells in both plants and animals. In the mitochondria, the material from glycolysis breaks down further, and most of the energy is extracted and stored as ATP. The end products of respiration in mitochondria are almost the same as would be formed by combustion in a furnace, an astonishingly cool furnace in which matter is burned but little heat is produced. The end products of respiration are carbon dioxide, water, and energy. The energy released by cellular respiration is used to carry on all life activities.
This is a simplified version of the equation for aerobic respiration. Food plus oxygen turn into water, carbon dioxide, and energy. Write this equation under number 15, part A, on your activity sheet. Food plus oxygen turn into water, carbon dioxide, and energy. Notice that this is basically the opposite of photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, green plants combine water and carbon dioxide and the energy of the sun and produce food and oxygen. Write down the equation for photosynthesis under part B of number 15 on your activity sheet. Water plus carbon dioxide plus energy produce food and oxygen.
Respiration and photosynthesis form a cycle. Respiration releases materials needed for photosynthesis, and photosynthesis provides materials needed for respiration. Respiration takes place continuously in plants and animals, but photosynthesis occurs in plants only. In this aquarium, you can see a delicate balance between plants and animals. How do you think the fish and the plants interact in this environment?
Write an explanation under question 16 on your activity sheet. You have 15 seconds to do this.
A byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen. Who will use this oxygen? The fish, of course. The fish in the aquarium will use the oxygen for their respiration, and in the process release carbon dioxide into the environment for recycling by the green plants through photosynthesis. Within an organism, certain cells or organs require greater amounts of energy than others. Can you think of two kinds of cells or organs which might require greater energy than others?
Write your answer under number 17 on your activity sheet and give the reasons for your choices. You have 15 seconds to do this.
Brain cells and muscle cells use considerably more energy than cells in other organs. Brain cells require extra energy for nerve transmission, and muscle cells require much energy in order for the muscles to contract. And because these cells require more energy, they contain large quantities of mitochondria. In fact, the mitochondria are known as the powerhouses of the cells. and with good reason. Because in a human body, each cell uses 1 billion to 2 billion molecules of ATP each minute. To fuel the respiration process, of course, we need food. The energy value in food is measured in terms of calories.
A calorie represents the amount of heat energy needed to raise 1 gram of water 1 degree centigrade. Write this definition under number 18 on your activity sheet. A calorie is the heat energy needed to raise 1 gram of water 1 degree centigrade.
In the food we eat, the greatest amounts of calories are contained in fats and carbohydrates. Different people involved in different occupations and pastimes burn energy at different rates. Decide in each of the following groups of individuals which person requires the greatest amounts of calories.
Write your answers in the appropriate places under question 19 on your activity sheet.
A teenage boy or a teenage girl. Both of the same age and weight. An office worker or a construction worker. A baseball player or a football player. A person walking or a runner.
Now, let's check your answers. These are the individuals requiring the most energy.
The boy, the construction worker, the football player, and the runner. These individuals require the most calories because they're using more energy in their activities than their counterparts. A typical teenage boy, for example, requires about 3,000 calories a day, while a teenage girl requires only 2,000 calories. Of course, these numbers can vary depending on how active the individuals are. But no matter what we do, all of us depend on cellular respiration to provide the energy so essential to cellular life and our well-being.